silences and quiet, and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe. And I know you feel like dying, but I promise we'll take the world to its feet. Ooh, I won't take, bring it to its feet. Ooh, I won't take, and I'll rise up.
All right, if we could have our speakers coming up to the podium here, getting ready. If we could have all the speakers come up to the area here. We're about to get this thing kicked off, everybody, so if you just bear with us a few more minutes.
I'll rise like the day, I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid, I'll rise up, and I do it 1,000 times again. All we need is hope, and for that we have each other, and for that we have each other, and we will rise, we will rise, we will rise, we'll rise. I'll rise up, rise like the day, I'll rise up, in spite of the end. I will rise 1,000 times again, and we'll rise up. I like the waves, we'll rise up, in spite of the ache, we'll rise up, and we'll do it 1,000 times again.
And by the way,
There's no Amy right now. Okay.
Microphone check. Can everybody hear me okay? We good? We're good? All right. Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody for coming today. This is a really big deal. There's no bigger issue than the safety, privacy, and mental well-being of our children. I think we can all agree with that, correct? You know, unfortunately right now, our children are under attack by incompetent radical ideologists. Some people ask me, how did this rally even come together? How did this even start? Well, I'm going to take it back to August 5th. August 5th was a Monday. The weather was decent. It was a fairly nice day. Work wasn't so bad. So things were going pretty smooth for a Monday. Not so bad. But we did have a board meeting that evening. And that was the evening that the Title IX adjustments were up for a vote. So a small group of us parents went to the board meeting, and we all spoke from our hearts. We all had different opinions and feelings, but we all got up there and shared how we felt, expressed it to the board, hoping that they would be open and transparent with us and understand where we were coming from and have some consideration. I think a lot of people might have seen the board meeting on YouTube. Happens to be the most views a board meeting has ever had in the history of Winneconne. Well, unfortunately, what happened at that meeting, they voted 4-3 against the parents' wishes. And when that happened, shock went across that room. I wasn't sure if some of the parents were going to get sick right there. We all went pale. There's so many descriptive words I could use on how we felt. We were amazed, shocked, disappointed, defeated. It was a horrible, horrible situation. Everyone kind of reacted differently. We all had a lot of emotions. Me personally, I just kept my mouth shut and left because I knew that if I were to say anything, it probably would not reflect well on us or myself. So the following morning, Adam Aarons and I get together and wanted to talk, and we started throwing ideas back and forth. What do we do? We felt so defeated and sad and scared for our kids. Or what do we do? So Adam and I were just kind of throwing ideas back and forth at each other, and none of them. Some were good, some were so-so, but nothing was really hitting us. And then, kind of towards the end of the conversation, Adam says, John, we should do a rally. And right then and there, a light bulb went off in my head, and I said, you know what, Adam, that's exactly what we're going to do. So shortly thereafter that, we pitched it to the parents that were with us at that board meeting, and everybody was on board with that immediately. So like a true grassroots organic movement, here we are today, and we're going to keep moving forward like a horse with blinders on, if you get what I'm saying. Now I did mention over 2,000 views of the board meeting on the internet, and I'm sure that a lot of people read in the Winneconne News the article that Peggy had written in response, and a lot of untruths in that article. But the one thing that really stood out to me was when she said that she would consider talking to the parents if a child or student came to them with concerns of gender dysphoria. So, I guess we all got to be thankful that they would at least consider talking to us, right? Thanks, Peggy. I'm going to talk a little bit about history. In 1967, the village of Winneconne was left off of the road map. And they were so upset about this that they had a vote, and they were going to secede, not just from the state, but from the entire United States, simply because they weren't on the road map. Well, I think we could all agree we're dealing with a little worse of a situation than not being put on a map. Is that correct? I mean, can we agree with that? And unfortunately, speaking of history, we've been through the lies, the deceit, the backroom deals, the lack of transparency, and there's so many of these experiences that I can't just name one, but I'm pretty sure that we can remember one of these, and the people that remember the most will be our children.
For people who can't read.
This shirt says, unmask our children. I think you can remember we've all been through this tyrannical situation once before. So I've also heard people say, well, this stuff doesn't happen in Winneconne. You're making it up, you're blowing it out of proportion. Well, today, you're actually going to hear from a parent whose child, unfortunately, has had horrible experiences, and she's going to talk to you about that and share her experience with you. I do want to encourage everyone that's here to show up to board meetings, and also show up and run for office. Run for the school board. Run for the county boards. Get involved. The people need to get involved. We all need to get involved. I want to throw out a special thanks to Ray's Sanitation, Leo's Service Station, Firehouse Subs, Valley Popcorn, everyone that's here today and everyone that's helping out, especially the speakers. And I do have to give a special thanks to my wife. She was on vacation in Presque Isle for a couple weeks. And there was no service, no internet, so when she came home from her vacation, she suddenly found out what we were up to. So guess what, sweetheart? We're having a rally. So what's going to follow here is that we're going to do the national anthem. And I ask that people take their hats off, put their hands on their hearts. The veterans, if you feel compelled to, please salute. And we're going to do this like we did when the village in this country had some respect. So following the national anthem, Adam Aarons is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then Pastor Jared is going to open with a prayer, and then we're going to get this party started, all right? Thank you, everybody.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. And the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
And now for the pledge. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll remain standing for prayer. I'm not Catholic, but I like watching you guys get up and down like that. So, my name is Jared Longside. I'm a pastor at a church in Oshkosh. I don't live in Winneconne, but I'm certainly serving side by side with you as you raise your voice against something you guys feel is wrong. And I certainly encourage you to continue to do that. Before I pray, just want to make a couple notes as we head into that. I am glad that a bunch of people can get together and voice their concerns against the government. May I say that the government does not give us rights, it's God that gives us rights. And then, yeah, please clap for that. A preacher one time said, he said, prayer doesn't lead to the greater work, prayer is the greater work. So as we lift our voices in prayer together, consider that this is the greater work, and we are here to protect children. There is a verse in the book of Jeremiah that says, "Be not afraid of their faces, for I am with thee to deliver thee, saith the Lord." Then the Lord put forth his hand and touched my mouth, Jeremiah, and the Lord said unto me, Behold, I have put my words in thy mouth. May the Lord put the words in the mouth of those who are trying to stand up for those who are vulnerable. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we do thank you for this day given us. We thank you for the beautiful weather that is held up, and we ask that as the speakers continue today that we would look to honor you. We know that we have a variant of denominations, a variant of whether or not even people believe in you. But I'm glad that today we have a group of people that want to stand up and protect children. We ask that you would give the gumption, the unction, the words for those to speak up and those who are vulnerable. What's going on in the schools is wicked, and I ask that you would just raise up a generation that would fight, and fight some more for them. I'm glad to know that we have a Bible that is truth, that it isn't my truth or someone else's truth, but it's just the truth. Help us to stick by your word. Help us to give you the glory. We're thankful for our Savior, Jesus Christ. And we ask these things in his most precious and most holy name. Amen.
All right. First speaker we have tonight from the 55th Assembly, Nate Gustafson. who just got through with a really hard-fought match, and I'm so proud of him that he's going to represent this village in Madison.
Well, thank you all for coming out. Again, I am State Representative Nate Gustafson. I represent the 50th State Assembly District, which is now right where we are right now, the village of Winneconne. And I really just wanted to make it brief for you today because obviously we saw what happened in the primary this week, but we also have to look forward and we have to look at why we're going out and voting and staying energized, because elections have consequences, plain and simple. If we did not get Trump elected in 2016, where he was able to get three, and I repeat, 3 Supreme Court picks, we would have not have seen our efforts of the fruit of our vote this past Friday, where they actually challenged and overturned Biden's Title IX interpretation, which is why we are here. This is what started. So what does that mean? Well, first off, you got to get out and vote. That is all I'm here for at this point. We got past one hurdle this past week. We have many more hurdles coming. And it's not just President Trump coming up in November's election. We have the spring election, which, again, a lot of people are now in tune. Every election matters. Every level of election matters. Local elections matter, and that's where next spring you have the opportunity to come out in a force that we've never seen before to not only win Winneconne School Board back, but also Supreme Court race in Wisconsin, which also has mega impact. Obviously, with the primary we just had, it was due to the Supreme Court flipping 2 years ago, and now we have the opportunity to flip that back next spring. So not only when you're going out to vote for school board, you have the opportunity to go vote in the Wisconsin Supreme Court election. So I'm just here saying, get out and vote. Thank you for your support. I'm going to keep fighting. I need all of you to keep fighting. Get people out to vote. Register people to vote. Whatever it's going to take. This is it. We are going to jump the shark on this one. We have to absolutely win this fall, and it's going to be because of all of you putting in the work. Thank you very much for coming out. God bless. Let's go do this.
Anybody in the crowd have Dr. Jake Jacobs as a teacher? Anybody in here? Greatest teacher in Winneconne history, and I mean that.
And now we know how old you are.
He's also, he has a podcast called One Nation for Freedom Project in Appleton. None other than Dr. Jake Jacobs.
Thank you, Adam. Wow, talk about homecoming. I came here, I moved from Arizona, from Appleton to Arizona in 1988. Met Bill Breister. I love that man. I got the job, I got lucky. And I taught American history. And when the new boss came in, I wasn't appreciated too much because I wasn't politically correct. I really miss Bill back then because Bill was not PC either. Let me just rock and roll in the classroom. In fact, my file was really thick because I dared talk about the Christian roots of American history and the foundation of our nation. And of course, many of you who know me know that I dared defend Governor Walker during that whole left-wing he was Adolf Hitler fiasco down in Madison. And that didn't go over very well across the river at the high school. They had an emergency faculty meeting, and I walked in, and you would have thought that Attila the Hun walked into the faculty meeting. I was told in no uncertain terms I was a fascist and I was a Nazi because I simply thought it was time to take on the corrupt National Education Association and the Wisconsin Education Association and the American Federation of Teachers because they're corrupt to the core. And simply Governor Walker wanted to balance the budget, and it was about to dump with a $5 billion deficit or debt. That's what he simply wanted to do. And so somebody had to speak up and defend the governor, and I did, and of course, then I left Winneconne. It's a long story. But when I think of it, when I think of this beautiful community, I think of this God-given gift around here. I see beautiful Americans who love God and love this country and love this republic. And when you see the sinister nature of what's creeping and flooding across the United States of America, we need to be here now, speaking up and standing up against the tyranny that wants to take our children. In Harry S. Truman's 1949 inaugural address, he understood in that inaugural address in 1949 that Joseph Stalin had been responsible for the death and murder of 30 million people. So he understood the evil nature of Soviet socialism, where the socialist state was the source, according to them, of man's utopic existence. And this is what Harry S. Truman said in that inaugural address. In spite of the ACLU and the Freedom from Religion Foundation that lies about the Christian roots of our nation, Harry S. Truman said this: "We believe that all men are created equal because they are created in the image of God." And President Truman at that moment was expressing the beautiful, wonderful words of the Declaration of Independence that proclaimed to the whole world that our Creator was the source of life, liberty, and equality. And that Creator was called in that beautiful declaration Supreme Judge of the world. We must always remember that. When President Truman, I was going to say Trump, but President Truman, when he declared that we were created in the Imago Dei, the image of God, he was quoting the book of Genesis chapter 1, verse 27, that declares, "And God created mankind in his own image." That verse continues, and here is the crux of the matter. In the image of God, he created them, male and female. ABC News, you got to get this on the air, bud. Come on, ABC, you can do this. That verse, from time immemorial, sinful man, socialist man, has denied the reality of our Father in heaven, who art in heaven, that they have always hated our constitutional federal republic under God. From Karl Marx's Communist Manifesto, which called for the abolition of the Christian family, to the Marxist Black Lives Matter leaders calling for a queer trans America, and that the reality of men and women created in the image of God have been under attack since the beginning of Karl Marx's evil philosophy. 100 years ago, there was an Italian Marxist by the name of Antonio Gramsci. And he said, America, Great Britain, those who advocate Western and Christian civilization, they cannot be defeated with the barrel of a gun. They have to be defeated differently. He called it, very cleverly, he called it the 4 C's. It's a brilliant Italian Marxist. He was an evil man, but he was clever, he was smart. He said, you're not going to fool Dr. Jacob's father who fought against the imperialist Japanese. He's not going to pick up a gun and declare revolution in the streets of America. What he says is, this is how we're going to defeat them. We're going to permeate their culture with Marxist, neo-Marxist, and socialist ideas. We're going to introduce anti-Christian ideas into the classroom through the curricula. And then we're going to infiltrate the churches with subversive ideas under the guise of being loving and Christian, because you all know love is love. And that's the day and age we live in, by this bizarre leftism of anything goesism, where the wokocrats are spreading throughout the country, desiring to eat and consume the freedoms that we have. In the 1960s, there was this rock and roll Marxist professor by the name of Herbert Marcuse. He literally was like a rock star on college campuses. I happened to, when I was living in San Diego in the late 70s, he was professor emeritus at University of California, San Diego, and students adored this man. but he was a hardcore American-hating, God-hating Marxist who influenced my generation. And those were the students that became the teachers of the teachers that were infiltrated into the classrooms. And in 1965, he wrote an essay called Repressive Tolerance. Now, this is brilliant. It's an Orwellian perversion of language, but it was his way of saying to the young students who became the teachers in our classrooms, what we will do is we will tolerate all ideas, socialists, Marxists, neo-Marxists. Those ideas we will accept, but we will militantly go after the ideas of the Christian family, traditional values, conservative ideas, and the Constitution of the United States of America. And that's exactly what happened. It's the Bill Ayers of the world and the Bernadine Dorns, the non-friends of Barack Obama. Those were the teachers at University of Chicago, Illinois, at Berkeley, at Columbia, and Madison, who were teaching our kids. And our kids were brainwashed and indoctrinated with this American hatred mindset. I've seen it firsthand at Winneconne High School. I saw it at Lourdes Academy, Lakeland College, won't have me anymore. And I've seen it in universities throughout this country where their poison has permeated the curricula and the classrooms. Since the 60s, the growing progressive, Marxist, leftist Marxification of education, and you collude that with the corruption of teachers' unions and weak education administrators across America. They're after parents' sovereign rights and their children. That is their primary target. They want our children. If they win the children, they win the progressive war on America. You know, they have taken over the party of my parents and my grandparents. I can still remember my mother telling me when FDR died in 1945 that she told her father, my Pépère Lafleur, it's French for, grandfather Lafleur up in the UP, she said, Pépère, FDR is dead. And he got on his knees and he prayed and he wept. That's how Democrat my family was. And my father, who fought in World War II, fought against fascism, imperialism, Nazism, gave 3 years of his life for this great republic under God. He would be appalled to see what has happened to the Democratic Party. It's been taken over by the wokocrats, the hardcore leftists. Kamala Harris, it's not a coincidence her father was a Marxist, was a communist. It's not a coincidence that her economic policies are right out of the books of Joseph Stalin and Fidel Castro and Maduro of Venezuela. It'll be a tragic day in America if we wake up on November 6th and she is President-elect of the United States of America. And that's why Nate is so spot on. We must work until the 5th of November. Constantly, and tell our neighbors and our friends and spread the great news of this incredible nation and the bad news of what the leftists bring to this country. I've traveled all over this country, from Maryland, Maine, or Virginia, Michigan, Illinois, Nebraska, Arizona, California, and I speak. I have the blessing of speaking before hundreds and thousands of middle school, high school, and college students and their parents many times. And I speak on the Christian foundation of the nation and the greatness, exceptionalness of our republic, our constitutional federal republic under God. You can see their faces light up when they hear the truth of America, and they long to see more Americans like this rising up to stop those who would steal our children and our God-given rights to be free. So it's incumbent upon us to stand up, speak out, and declare, like it says on the Liberty Bell, declare liberty throughout the land and unto all the inhabitants thereof. And it is not a coincidence that on that Liberty Bell, it's quoting the Torah, the book of Leviticus, chapter 25, verse 10. That's the foundation of the nation that these leftists, these Marxists, these wokocrats want to destroy. Our founders never envisioned the long arm of the central government in Washington, D.C., and the corrupt Department of Education reaching in the homes, in the hearts of our children here in beautiful Winneconne, Wisconsin, and across our wonderful republic. These destructive actors on the stage of the family tragedy must be exposed for the manipulative Title IX charlatans they are. We know they are lying. They know we know they are lying, but they keep on lying nonetheless. And we must not live by their lies and allow them to get away with their lies, whatever the cost may be. Washington, D.C., to hell with your money. Our children are more important. We must speak out. We must stand up before it's too late. This next election is the most consequential election in the nation of the history since 1860, when the Democrats wouldn't even allow Abraham Lincoln on the ballot, when they wanted to murder him and kill him. The party of systemic, institutionalized racism and slavery, the Democratic Party. They went to war because the Republican Party wanted to end slavery. And now what they want to do is enslave our children with their lies. And I and you will not allow them by God's good grace. So may God's sovereign grace and mercy give us the wisdom, the strength to confront their lies with truth. That boys and girls, men and women are made wonderfully in His image. Godspeed to you all in the battles ahead.
Let's give one more round of applause for Dr. Jake here. That was fantastic, was it not?
I do want everybody to know that we have a lot of experts here on Title IX. Over there, we have Scarlett Johnson, who I would consider the leading expert in the state. If you guys have questions, ask her. Answer the questions. She'll answer anything for you. She is knowledgeable about it all. So I'm going to go next with also another good... Actually, Scarlett, do you want to come up now? All right, I'll have you. Hold on 1 second. Sorry, change plans. This is the president of the school board of New London, and man, they are lucky to have him. If we had one like him, things would be a lot different. And it matters who you have on your school board. So we please be involved. Next April, we have another election up, and we have someone who probably shouldn't be there. So be aware of what is going on, and you can get a gentleman like this to be president and change things for the better.
Will I use this one? I'm not sure how easy it is to follow Jake. He's such a good orator, but I'm going to talk. I'm going to just mention 3 words and talk about those words briefly. I'm not going to take much of your time. Those words are courage, truth, and perseverance. On the topic of courage, whoops, can you hear me? Okay. On the topic of courage, can I ask if they're all here, the 3 school board members that voted no to those oppressive resolutions?
We have one.
Okay. Give them a hand. Give them a hand. Oh yeah, and we have 2 Oshkosh school boards that voted no. Board members, stand up if you would. Give them their support, because I can tell you from personal experience, it does take courage to stand up against the educational establishment. It seems like an easy thing to vote no on something like that, but the pressure they put on you, the administrators, the lawyers, etc., they're standing up for the values that your community believes in. And don't ever, I'm addressing those board members now, don't ever be afraid to vote your conscience. There's some on the other side that will say, well, you're going to lose the vote anyway, you might as well make it unanimous. Don't ever do that, because people out here and the voters and the parents, they want to know where their board members stand. And not only make that vote, but make them record the votes. Do a what's called a voice vote, where everybody is recorded, so that people out here know where you stand and they can vote accordingly in the next election. Always remember, the parents are your customers in the public school. And remember that the voters are your boss, and listen to them. So that's the courage part. Truth. The Bible says in John 8:32, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Here's an item of truth. There is no role for the federal government in public education as far as curriculum is concerned or policy. The federal government, if you read the Constitution, education isn't mentioned once. And that was on purpose. It wasn't that they were forgetting about education. They were leaving that to local government and the states. So that's a truth that often the lawyers and the administrators will not tell you, that there is no role for the federal government in education. The way they make a role is they give you grants, and then they put strings on them. But this is my advice to you board members. Don't sell the soul of your community for money or for food for the food program. Here's another truth. There is no mention of gender identity rights in the Constitution, nor is there any law passed by Congress ever that mentions gender identity. There is, however, a constitutional amendment that was passed in 1964 that outlaws discrimination on the basis of race, color, creed, or national origin. That's the only thing that's in the Constitution as far as discrimination. So they get around that by offering grants and tying strings to it.
Which is really just blackmail.
Yes.
And they're using our children.
Yep. So my last word is perseverance. I was elected to the school board in 2016 in New London, and I was the only person out of 7 that, if this topic had come up then, would have voted no. There were numerous votes that were 1-6 in my first year on the board. Then another person was elected, and then there was 2-5 for a while. Then in 2021, during COVID, and because of the board's crazy response to COVID, we had another mom elected. So now it was 3-4, and we actually backed them down on a few things with using the 3-4 and flipping a vote on the other side. But not all. We didn't win all the time, but once in a while. But then in 2022, 2 moms got elected, and two people that were on the other side lost their seat. And then last year we had one more gain. So now, since 2022, I'm the president of the school board. And so perseverance pays off. Don't give up when you get a vote that goes bad. Don't give up. Don't ever give up on it. You can turn this around. Do whatever you feel that can be effective. Petitions, go to meetings, but definitely elect members, and remember the ones that voted with you and vote the other ones out. And I've got the first $100 contribution to one of you that decides to run in the next election. So, thanks. So I would just encourage you to keep on and work at this. Thank you.
And I want to touch on his point. I'm going to tell you right now, if this Title IX vote from last Monday, or 2 Mondays ago, came up 4 years ago, guess what the vote would have been? It would have been 7-0. We have added 3 great school board members in the last 3 years. 22, 23, 24. 24 right there, Dean Ackman. So, who you have on your board, I'd say it's more important than any other position in government. And we need to stay active, stay aware. All right, so next I have Amy Resop. Senator Ron Johnson could not be here, but one of his staffers is here. I worked a lot with her 2 years ago when I worked on Johnson's re-election campaign, and she helped me out the most of anybody, so.
Thank you, Adam. Doors, doors, doors. They make a difference. So thank you, Adam, and thank you for inviting Senator Johnson to be here. Good, gorgeous Sunday afternoon. If you're not familiar with the type of legislator Ron Johnson is, let me share. He's got the 10th Amendment stenciled on his office wall in D.C. 10th Amendment. Any powers that are not specifically given to the federal government nor withheld from the states are reserved to the states or the people. And this is why. Reason number 5,802, local control of education is imperative, as opposed to actual federal issues that they should be concerned about: border, inflation, maybe how to protect the president. Anyway, these changes to Title IX result from an executive order, policy made by an executive agency, in this case the Department of Education. Congress did not pass this law. Can Congress overturn this law? An executive rule, there's a special kind of bill called a CRA, or Congressional Review Act. It has special rules. It has to be introduced within a certain time period after a rule is published. It can't be filibustered, and it only requires a simple majority to pass. The House passed the CRA to overturn this rule. In the Senate, Ron co-sponsored the CRA, but because we're in the minority, it sat in committee and never saw the Senate floor for a vote. Senator Baldwin was not a co-sponsor to this bill. In his statement, Ron made clear the department must consider the resulting real-life inherent costs, the cost of lost opportunities for girls in academic settings. By expanding the pool of protected individuals and creating mass uncertainty at each individual school and school district, it stands to reason that biological girls will ultimately lose scholarship and athletic opportunities designated for them under the original intent of Title IX, rather than expanding the definition of Title IX to fit the current progressive agenda. The Biden-Harris administration should support Congress in strengthening its congressional intent and reinforce the protections Title IX offered women and girls when it was first enacted in 1972. Part and parcel of Ron's appreciation of the 10th Amendment is his appreciation for government closest to the governed. I'd like to thank all who stepped up to participate in your state and local governments. In particular, I'd like to mention Dean Ackman, Megan Keller, and Earl Peterson. Thank you for doing the right thing. Thanks for the speakers who keep us informed and are willing to explain and answer questions. And thanks to all the concerned students, parents, and community members here. Your representatives must hear from you, and we cannot let up. Thank you.
All right. Next, we have the chair of co-chapter chair, Gays Against Groomers, Rocky Rodriguez.
How are we doing, everybody? First of all, I'd just like to say thank you for having me out tonight, and I just want to appreciate the opportunity that I have here to explain what our organization does, what we fight for, and why we fight for what we do. First of all, Gays Against Groomers is an organization that is based of gays, lesbians, and real transsexuals that know what they are, who believe that you should not indoctrinate children, you shouldn't radicalize children, and you shouldn't medicalize children. There is nothing great about transing your child that will come of it. Gays Against Groomers started in 2022. We are going on 2 years strong now. It started with the Gay Who's Straight, Jamie Michelle. She's the founder of the organization, a lesbian woman, biological woman, who also just happens to be Jewish. So whatever you guys have heard about the organizations and the lies you've heard on Wikipedia and everything else, I'm just here to dispel that. What's happening in our schools is a travesty, and honestly was not what I fought for growing up as a young adult, and is not what anybody in our community has fought for. What it meant to be gay and lesbian has totally been erased and changed to what today's definition of what it is supposed to be. You're no longer gay, you're queer, or you're non-binary, or you're a they, them. None of that has a real bearing on reality, and in my reality, that doesn't even exist. What it is, personally, I believe that is a mental delusion that these people believe and that they live in. Hold on one second. Oh, sorry about that. So we're all here because of what happened 2 Mondays ago, Title IX, Winneconne School District. Obviously, we have Peggy Larson, who says one thing when she's in front of a lawyer, in front of a school board, but then when she gets on TV in front of the news, she says she's willing to compromise. But if these people are willing to compromise, I just have one question. Instead of invading women's sports and women's spaces and taking away their opportunities and their scholarships, what is wrong with you creating your own space just like everyone else has? What is wrong with having your own, rather than taking something from people that have worked their whole lives for? You're taking away scholarships, opportunities, college opportunities from these young women. We have people in power that take their position and will take it to the extreme. For a couple of examples, we have Brett Bloom. He was a father of two, a judge of a children's court, who was convicted of sexual assault and sentenced to 9 years with 20 years supervised release. And he was 4 counts of child pornography distribution, and he was actually doing it while on the clock as a child circuit court judge in the city of Milwaukee. We have in Outagamie County in Appleton, Adam Westbrook, who was a human resources manager and was arrested and had 4 counts of sexual assault, child exploitation, and he was actually a volunteer in a Menasha school district, in a Kaukauna school district for theater production. These people take powers of positions and they abuse that. That is the common pattern you see with teachers, therapists, counselors, doctors, and even sometimes parents even take advantage of their own children, because today the trans kid is the new liberal white women's Gucci bag, and they use that for their points online to say, hooray, look what I have created, because they need that attention online. No sane adult, I'm sorry, my personal opinion, would allow their children to go through what I have to sit there and look and research and watch videos and see these procedures being done onto these kids. For them to say that double mastectomies does not happen to minors is a lie. For them to say that they're not giving puberty blockers or cross-sex hormones to minors, that is a lie. If that was the case, we wouldn't have detransitioners such as Chloe Cole, who had a double mastectomy at the age of 15 years old. We wouldn't have Jazz Jennings, that was brought up basically on TLC, transition to the whole entire world, who now regrets it, by the way. You don't see her living, or sorry, him living a happy life. And that's one thing I'm tired of, is bowing down to these people's words that don't make any sense anymore. If a man is a man and a woman is a woman, I'm sorry, but I live in reality, I live in science, and I live in biology. And that's the real world, and I'm tired of playing games with these people. We spent too many years quiet and saying, oh, it's okay, it's not going to go that far, things aren't that extreme, and look where we are right now. We got men who don't know if they're men, we got women who don't know if they're women, and we have teachers exploiting your children just because they want to, and they think that you have nothing, you actually don't have any say in it anymore because your parental rights are gone. Hopefully, we can get them back, but it's going to be a hell of a fight because these people that are behind them are straight up Marxist, communist people. They don't care about you, they don't care about your family, they only care about them. And if that was the case, again, I ask, why not have your own separate spaces? I don't believe that all these people that are falling victim to this ideology is intended. I think what it is they're afraid and they don't have a place to go and they don't have acceptance the way they want to. When I was growing up, I look at these kids now who say they're non-binary and they're they, them. All what I see is when I was a teenager growing up and I was the goth kid in high school that just wanted to fit in. Dyeing my hair, piercing myself just so I fit in somewhere. But the difference is I grew out of it because I wasn't indoctrinated into it. I didn't grow up believing it. I didn't believe a lie. I just looked a certain way and acted a certain way, but it wasn't who I was. These people base their whole reality and their identity on who they are. And I actually, I challenge them to let me know what rights you don't have that a straight person would have. You guys can do that, I can't. I can get a gun, I can buy a house, I can drive a car, I can have a child if I want to. Nothing is stopping me from living my life the same way you do. It's not about equal rights, it's about special treatment. That's the difference. There was nothing left to fight for as of 2015. We were able to do everything we wanted, even get married. After that, the Human Rights Campaign, who was a big proponent in supporting gay rights, lost all their ability to raise money. So what did they do? They jumped onto the next best thing, and that was going to be trans kids. That's what this is all about, money. In the end, it's all about money. The big pharmaceutical companies that are making money on all these surgeries and cross-sex hormones and puberty blockers, Lupron, which is a well-known drug that they give pedophiles in prison who have committed the acts, they're giving that to children, little boys, to castrate them. And you could look it up online. It is not a lie, like a lot of people like to say. They give little boys Lupron to block their puberty, which makes them sterile. Marcy Bowers, who is a famous transgender surgeon, actually admitted that on Tanner stage 2, they are completely sterile. So you're taking away these people's ability to have children. You're taking away these kids' ability to give birth to a new life because of how they're feeling. Back in the day, you used to have to spend years and years and years. If you were thought to be transgender, you would have to spend years in therapy. You would have to live years as the opposite sex and then decide if that was something you wanted to do. Nowadays, you can walk into a clinic and get a prescription for hormones in 5 minutes or less. And that's not all. You can also see Matt Walsh did it. A lot of other people online have went into these clinics and gotten prescriptions just because they said they felt like the different sex. It's a slippery slope, and I hate using that word because it's used against people and like me all the time, but this is a slippery slope. What they've done, we gave them an inch and they took a mile, and now everything is turning to hell, and very quickly. I just want to encourage you people to know that there's so many people on this stage right now that come from different backgrounds, have different walks of life, do different things, but we all come together no matter the differences, the political parties or beliefs, because we have one thing in common, and that's to protect the future of our kids, your kids, and our generation of kids, because if we let them continue the way they're continuing, our country will fall. We cannot have kids who grow up to be adults that don't even know what gender they are on 20 different thousand medications, and will break at the sign of someone confronting them and questioning their beliefs, and they crumble like crackers in water. They have no basis for their beliefs. I don't believe that is a successful future for us to have. I think we need to go back to the time when reality was just, and we lived with biology and facts. If you feel a certain way, that's cool, but I don't think you have the permission to make that and dictate that someone else's worldview or belief. Your beliefs are your beliefs, not ours. So I don't want to take too much of your time, but I just want to let you know that there are normal gays and lesbians out there who care about the sanctity of what it is to be a child and what it is to grow up. If you let these kids grow up naturally, a lot of them end up just being gay or lesbian or just confused, and they grow up out of it to lead happy, successful lives. What they're doing is they want to say that it's honestly the modern day conversion therapy that's happening right now. It used to be you pray the gay away. In 2024, they're transing the gay away, they're transing the lesbians away, and they're transing the whole community that I once knew and loved away just off of a feeling. Just want to let you know we have your back and we are here to fight with you. If there's ever anything you need or you see or something's going down in your school board, there's a drag queen story time or anything like that, you just reach out to us and we will be there to help fight for you guys. We just got one shut down that's supposed to be happening in Brown County. The Brown County Library bookmobile was supposed to have a drag queen story time. Sorry, not going to happen. I don't get what the fascination is with drag queens. Biological men dressed in women's clothes to read to children? Okay, cool. If it's about inclusivity and teaching acceptance, how about you have a gay policeman, a lesbian surgeon, a doctor, a firefighter, an EMT, somebody of substance that creates something in our country and makes something of something, rather than a man masquerading around in 20 pounds of makeup looking like the worst version of Pennywise you could ever see. I'm sorry, but if you want to teach inclusivity, there's different ways to do it. I don't have to read sexually explicit books to kids to teach them that maybe people just live a different life and that's okay. Focus on you and do you. What other people do is not our problem. If they are not paying your bills, pay them no mind. But we don't have that common sense. We need to make sense common again. We need to leave the kids alone and let them grow up to be who they are, not who we want them to be. Parents, if your little daughter says, well, I like to throw a football, just let them throw a football. You don't got to give them a double mastectomy and put them on hormone blockers or any of that. Let them grow up because, you know, you're probably just a tomboy. If I was to grow up now, coming out as gay now, I would be convinced that I was a transsexual. Why? Because that's what you see in social media. That's what you see on TV. They always glamorize the transsexual lifestyle, but they never want to talk about the horrors of it. The reconstruction surgery, the deaths that happen on the table when they're performing these surgeries. You can all look this up. This is all online. These are things that happen. They put little boys on, they block their puberty, so these little boys grow up with, sorry to be graphic, but they grow up with a micro penis, so first of all, they don't even have what it takes to make what they want. So it's catch-22. They're just being led down a path. And the biggest horror of it all is the money they're making in the pharmaceutical companies. One transgender person is at minimum $1 million they will spend in their lifetime on therapy, reconstructive surgeries, medications, and they're on hormones and all these medications for the rest of their life to keep their transition going, because the moment they stop, it's just like a drug addict quitting cold turkey. We know what happens to that. It's just an unsafe place for kids nowadays, and I just want to let you know, not all of us are like the people you see, or like the people you see over there. We actually do care, and we do want to fight with you. And just know that it's not I live my life a lot differently than all of you, but it's none of my business what you do, and just like it's none of your business what I do. Just know that I'm here to help you guys fight with whatever you need, no matter where you are, where I am, we will always be there. And there's warriors out there like Scarlett with Moms for Liberty, Laura with Moms for Liberty. We got so many people out here fighting for the same thing, and just know that when we come together, we could do some amazing shit, guys. For real.
I know there are some new people who have just shown up, and I just wanted to announce we still have a lot of chairs up here and canopies, so if you don't want to be standing in the hot sun, please feel free to grab a chair, sit in the shade, and with that, we're going to let Scarlett take over here.
Hello. Yay. Thank you to the school board members who voted no to the Biden-Harris 1,500-page Title IX rewrite, aka Policy 2264. Thank you very much, because Don't Rock the Boat loses in every history book ever. I just didn't think it was my place, loses in every history book ever. So move this out of the way. I don't know about you, but I'm sure glad that Abraham Lincoln rocked the boat, and I'm sure glad that Donald J. Trump rocked the boat, and I'm sure glad that we're all out here rocking the boat, because we're not going to be satisfied being the controlled opposition anymore. To quote, I've been rocking the boat for 4 years, and I have zero intention of losing this fight. Because to quote Hillary Clinton, I ain't no ways tired. And our kids are worth fighting for. I'm going to tell you a story. A 14-year-old male who identifies as a female played on the Randolph Union High School girls volleyball team in Vermont. Entered the girls' locker room while the girls were changing. The girls were upset. The parents were upset. They called the principal. They told school officials they were concerned. They didn't want a male student undressing, showering, and exposing himself to their 14-year-old daughters. Those parents were told that if the girls feel uncomfortable, they should use a single-stall restroom outside. The day after this, a 14-year-old girl named Blake shared her concerns with her classmates, expressing, "This is literally a dude. He has a male genitalia." Although the male student wasn't present when she said those things, the school began an investigation. The school Title IX coordinator. That's the new Title IX. So they did an investigation. They banned her from the girls' volleyball team. They banned her from using the locker room. They also did a full investigation of her. They told her she had to take part in a restorative circle with an equity and social justice coordinator so she could better understand the rights of the trans-identifying male. And they basically forced her to write an essay, a reflective essay, in which she could describe how wonderful it was to be trans and how she should accommodate the trans male. The end game of this non-discrimination policy 2264 is exactly that. The wording is all there. I have read all of Neoli's internal documents. I have, not all of them, all that I can. I've read WASB's statements. I've read what school district lawyers across the state are writing. They don't know what's in the 1,500-page document. But you should just pass it anyway and find out and trust that they're going to protect your kids. Because they always do, don't they? They sure did during COVID, right? We should trust the experts. When have those experts have been right about anything? Just name one. One thing they were right about since 2020. I can't think of a single darn thing, but I know I was right about everything, and I know you were. So we should say no. We should say no to crazy people. Let's not forget, in 2021, a male identified as a female sexually assaulted a girl in Loudoun County in the bathroom. He then proceeded to sexually assault other girls as the schools just kept transferring him because their non-discrimination policy gave them no other choice. In 2023, right here in Wisconsin, an 18-year-old man exposed himself to 4 14-year-old girls in Sun Prairie. And as he showered right next to them, aroused by their presence, he said, "I'm trans, by the way, so it's okay." And Sun Prairie did nothing because they believe in supporting the rights of the gender identity. It's a cult. One last story, and there are so many. There's Kiel, Wisconsin, Eau Claire. I mean, my goodness. If you want to talk to me about it, come to the table. I can show you. It's shocking. In Green Bay right now, there's a trans male, or whatever he is. He's playing volleyball on the girls' volleyball team, giving all the other girls welts and bruises. But the WIAA won't do anything about it, and the school board won't do anything about it because they are just caught up in this cultish mentality. We have to be the sane ones fighting for our kids. Again, before I offer up my kids to these woke gods, I have one question. And if they can answer it, I'll think about it. What is one thing that you've gotten right? Nothing. I am not going to sacrifice my kids to this ideology. I and all of you, we have to love our God, love our community, and love our kids more than they hate us. That's how we win. A bureaucrat with a master's in gender studies whose Twitter handle includes "deconstructing whiteness is my jam" just doesn't impress me much, and it shouldn't impress you either. I think I will be the one to make the decisions for my family. Thank you very much. And I'm not asking for a seat at the table. I am demanding one. Just go ahead. Try and get between me and my kid. See what happens. That's the place you don't want to be. I promise you that. The only 3 letters I need after my name to make me the expert of my child are M-O-M. That's it. I'm the expert. They're my kids. They're not your kids. Have your own kids. Stop aborting them. Stop transing them, and then you can have kids too. For now, I have 5 kids. They're mine. I will make the decisions. You're not paying their bills. I am. They're not your guinea pigs. The classrooms aren't some social justice, shop where you can just try all these social experiments and see what happens. Look at the data. Our kids are depressed. They have anxiety. Even Jill Underley is going to give a speech, and her speech is going to be, our kids are depressed, so we should double down on all the things that have been making them depressed. Because you know why? I'm the expert, listen to me. No. When is the last time Jill Underley has compromised with us on anything? They want us to compromise. I watched the school board meeting. I watched it. I watched as the struggle session went on against that school board member. They struggled her hard. They did. When have they ever been struggled and they've compromised? They don't. How many times did your board vote to pause? How many? And they just brought it up again and again and again. We should learn a lesson from that. Maybe we shouldn't stop fighting. Maybe we should put on the same kind of pressure. Maybe we shouldn't just shrug our shoulders and say we tried. Maybe we shouldn't stop until we win. Maybe that's how you win. I think so. Now, Laura's going to talk in greater detail, but I just want to give a few direct quotes I think that you don't know because you didn't see some of the internal documents that I see. You didn't see some of the things that you're not supposed to see and that I'm not supposed to see. So I'm going to tell you some quotes. Quote, there is very little room for any type of local control or revision to these policies. That's what a lawyer said to a school board member. When they tell you you still have control, they're lying. This is what they say behind the door. The new regulations are hundreds of pages and encompass numerous new DEI training requirements that are going to be very costly. Did you know that? Did you know that? Do you know that you're going to have to hire a whole bunch of new DEI coordinators? Do you know that the policy you just passed has a trap door? And that door entitles that even everyone has to be retrained, including your janitor, including volunteers, everyone. The new sex-based standard states that misgendering a non-binary student is comparable to sexual assault and, quote, should be treated as such, end quote. Must say they. They give an example. There's a party on a Saturday night. Football team's out. Your kid on the football team? Your kid accidentally doesn't use these/her pronouns? Well, guess what? On Monday morning, your kid's going to get dragged into the principal's office, suspended, and they're going to get an investigation. And maybe they will have to apologize, and maybe they will have to write a reflective essay after they meet with the Title IX coordinator and go through some sort of struggle session where they are basically, this is like Maoist China here. Do you want that? I don't think you do. So you better do something because that's what's happening. Hell is empty, all the devils are here. but so are all the angels. Let's be on the side of angels, and let's fight this thing, and let's win.
Thank you very much. Scarlett Johnson, she's really popular on Twitter, if you're on Twitter.
Scarlett for Kids.
Yes.
Check her out on Twitter.
Yep, Scarlett for Kids. Once again, I want to thank everyone for being here. We do have a few more speakers, but here comes the time where I'm going to have you actually hear from a parent that has had experiences dealing with these situations. How many people here deer hunt? A lot of deer hunters out there? Well, we're lucky because this year you can use your doe tag to shoot a buck. And you can just go in and see how that works with the DNR and the game warden, right? All right, well, let's get a round of applause for all the speakers we've had so far. This is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Now, unfortunately, this is going to get you a little riled up, but Heidi has to tell you what she's already experienced in our district right here in the village.
All right, so as John said, my name is Heidi. Last name is Hinkle-Hanky. Some of you might remember my name when I ran to be a part of the Winnebago County Board as a supervisor, and I ran against Doug Nelson. I just want you to know, I don't really care what anybody thinks of me, and here's why. I have had many people, since we just started this rally, send me private messages that are filled with an awful lot of hate and an awful lot of vitriol. Because 3 years ago already, fall of 2021 school year, my son, who is on the football team at the time, he was also a Winneconne wrestler, state champs, you know, all that great stuff. School year started. My son had a gym class his senior year. It was his one fun blow-off class. He likes to keep athletic. After they were done with their gym class, of course, you know, they get kind of sweaty and gross. All the boys went into the boys' locker room to kind of change their clothes, freshen up a little bit. And they were literally mortified and shocked because there was a female in that locker room. The female was looking at a little book, but the whole time she was pretending to look at a book, she was checking out the boys. My son immediately left gym class and called me and said, "Mom, I'm really upset. I felt very uncomfortable because there was a girl in the locker room and she was staring at us and some of the other boys." So I, of course, called right away. Mrs. Michaud, who is the high school principal, was not in at the time. So I immediately turned around and I called our district administrator, Peggy Larson, and said, there was a girl in the boys' locker room, and all the boys were pretty upset that she was in there kind of oogling and ogling them, like, what is going on, Peggy? What I received was probably one of the saddest things I've ever received from somebody that I put my trust in with my most precious gift, was Peggy Larson. Her response was pretty much, oh yeah, it's a girl, but she sees herself as a boy, and she is allowed to use any locker room or bathroom space that she, or in Peggy's words, she used the word he, that he chooses. My immediate response was, well, Peggy, how come she gets to choose where she wants to be, but my son and all the other boys who had that gym class with him don't get to have their rights also considered? Peggy and I went back and forth and back and forth. Now, as that first week of school continued to go on, I ended up hearing from more mothers and more parents saying, oh, my son Dylan came home from school. My son Josh came home from school. My son Calvin came home from school, and they really are upset because now there's this girl in their bathroom. Now, as men, there's a reason why they have urinals in male locker rooms. It's close, it's convenient. You get in, you do your thing, you get out. Bada boom, bada bang. Well, unfortunately, when you now have a girl in the boys' locker room who is conveniently using the mirror in order to look over at an angle while the boys are literally taking out their private parts to go and use a urinal, she's watching them. So again, I went back to Peggy. I'm like, Peggy, we've heard now from more parents. They're upset because this girl is now also invading the boys' bathroom space. And again, I was repeatedly told she has the right to be anywhere she wants because she has told us that she sees herself as a boy. What was very upsetting is I also said, well, gal Peggy, couldn't something have been done where before the school year even started, you could have sent out a letter or an email to the parents of all male students, whether they are in that gym class or they're on the football team or they're just a male student at the school, and just said, hey, heads up, you may encounter a female in your private spaces. Maybe talk about what you as parents are going to feel the right thing is to do. I again was told, you can't do something like that, Heidi, because that discriminates then against the female student. But I'm like, well, all the male students were discriminated against. Where are their rights? And again, they really didn't have any answer or response to that. What I can tell you is that we got no help from the schools at all. So it was decided, at least the boys in the gym class, because they were so embarrassed and humiliated, and they felt like it wasn't right as men to be taking their clothes off in front of a female, they, as the gentlemen that they all were, went to the teacher and said, hey, what if we go and use these bathrooms that are further down in the middle school so that way she can have her space, but we can have our own private space too? Oh, okay, yeah, sure, go ahead and do that. Well, unfortunately, that ended up becoming another, because where the middle school bathrooms were, and to where most of the boys had to get to their next class after gym class, most of them were showing up a minute and 2 minutes late for the next class. So then they were pretty much told, look, if you guys continue to be late for class, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to use disciplinary action, i.e. you receive a detention. So in the end, what we worked out with our son and what most of the other male students had to do was they had to go into a little stall in the locker room to change after gym class, or option number 2, and it's the option my son chose, was to basically lather up with deodorant, get a bunch of Axe body spray, and just go for the rest of the day in their gym clothes that were stinky and sweaty because they didn't want to have to continue to change in front of her. And as far as the bathroom situation went, they of course waited in line and had to use a stall. And I'm sorry, but every single male in the school was discriminated against. Their rights to privacy, to security, to being able to just be a male was taken away in order to accommodate the wishes and the wants of the one female student who verbally just said, I feel and I believe that I am a boy. Now, I've also heard, because we've had questions about this, well, why can't we just have a unisex bathroom? I am here to tell you that before the school year started, this particular female and her parents met with our student administrator, Peggy Larson, and Peggy had said, well, what if we open up the faculty bathrooms for her, and we open up the auditorium bathrooms for her, and that could be her place to go? The female student and the parents said, no, no, we're not going to comply with that. Our kid has the right to be wherever she wants to be. And again, Nobody else was notified. So I want you to know that when Peggy went and publicly told us in her emails and on her little video that she did with the news channel that we're going to put in all this effort and we're going to come up with a plan and we're going to have them write something up so that everybody's protected, I want you to know right now that that is a flat out lie. Because the way things are written right now, no transgender student has to comply with using any specific space. They are allowed to go where they want and when they want at any time they want. So it is complete malarkey and it is a complete lie what they are telling you that they're going to make sure. And I want to stress, because this is a loaded thing. This has already happened in Winneconne. And I fought it, and I fought it, and I fought it. But now we have awoken the giant. But I really want you to know that this entire thing here today, and every person that is up here on this stage as speakers, we do not have any hate in our heart for someone who sees themselves as the opposite than the way they were born. We have no hate in our heart for someone who identifies as a trans person. We have no hate in our heart. We don't want to see their rights taken away. We are here because we want to make sure that every student's rights are honored and respected, that every student, heterosexual, straight, transgender, bisexual, pan, whatever you identify as, your rights will be equal and the same as someone else's rights. My son had a very difficult time with this. We are Catholic. We are pretty serious Catholics. He went to confession week after week for the first several weeks and literally confessed to the priest how bad he felt because he was undressing in front of a female, and it tore him up until we got to the point where it's like, this is what you're just going to have to do. He took that humiliation and embarrassment on himself, and we cannot continue to let this happen. Because we hear a lot about how the males are going to invade the female spaces, and I do think it goes that way more often. But I am that example of where it actually went the opposite way, where the female got to invade the male space. We want rights for everyone, so, you know, the person over there that has their sign, the trans rights are human rights, we welcome you. We are not against you at all in any way whatsoever. We just want, yep, exactly. We care about you. We want to see your rights. You're recognized as a human being, as a child of God yourselves. But we want those same rights and those same protections for all of our students. And I right now don't know what the answer is, because you can build as many bathrooms as you want, but if anyone gets to say on any given day, I see myself as this and not that, and I want to go in this space or in that locker room, how are you going to stop it? There has to be respect, kindness, and consideration on all sides so that all students can be safe. So thank you guys for coming. Hope to see you at school board meetings.
Very good. Thank you, Heidi. I'm sure that took a lot to be able to come up there and share that with you. We're going to follow up now. I'm sure you're going to love to hear from this guy. His name is Dean Ackman. He's actually on the board, and he's one of the people that voted on our side with the no vote. Put his hands together for that. Attaboy, Dean. Here you go.
Hi, folks. I just want to thank you first so much for coming out. I mean, there's so many other things you could be doing right now, and, you know, that took a sacrifice. So I really appreciate it. So I got two bits of good news. First of all, this will be short. so many other speakers have taken my thunder. So, and all I have is a little tiny lightning bolt. So But anyway, the other good news is I just want to thank you for electing me. You know, I'm your employee. So later on, I'll be wandering around. Just come and talk to me. It's being so new to this. You know, I'm drinking out of a fire hose. I'm not a lawyer. Never played one on TV. And you know, so I'm reading through you know, lawsuits, and I'm reading through you know, the new Title IX. I'm reading through the 10th Circuit Court out of Kansas, that whole 50-page thing, plus all of our normal school board things. So it's been a wake up. I'm not complaining. It's just, you know, my background is military crew chief, so I'm a technical guy. I'm a mechanic, flight status. So here I'm into a literary kind of. I'm really having to shift my brain. But you know, I'm not on the board to make friends. I'm not on the board to make enemies. I just really want to do what's right. So yeah, and that's part of getting older too. I like this part of me now. I don't, you know, care as much about what people think of me. So it just helps getting older too. But yeah, anyway, so you know, some of the combat experiences I've been in, I haven't been in actual combat. I'm not as good as you Army and Marines out there. You know, you're being Air Force. Some of the school board stuff is actually harder than the combat I've had, where, you know, bullets were coming at me, or in flight, I've had missiles fired at me. At least there, you know, you're probably going to die. It'll be quick. There won't be any pain. Well, with the school, this whole Title IX thing, it's just, you know, it's kind of a festering wound. It keeps going on and on and on. And you know, I trust God will. We're going to have resolve to this. You know, the truth always comes out, and you know, good always wins. It just takes time. We got to have patience. So I guess with that, I will pass on the mic. But yeah, please come and talk to me. I'll tell you the little bit I know. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you very much.
Brianna, you okay? You guys ever heard of Charlie Kirk? Yeah. Anybody? So we have Brianna Arnold from Turning Point Action. I just wanted her to say a few words, so if you guys want to get involved in that also. So I've worked with her a few times. She's a great girl.
Why did you tell me you were coming?
Oh no, that's a fantastic surprise guest speaker.
Wow. Well, hello everyone. Oh man. Well, thank you so much everyone for coming out today. This is truly what makes or breaks with the town. It takes a village. It takes people boots on the ground. So sorry. Yeah, like I said, my name is Brianna. I work for Charlie Kirk's organization, Turning Point Action. We are the boots on the ground. Our goal is to make every conservative get out and vote. So Nate earlier mentioned how it's important that right now what we can do is making that sure that everyone here votes, and you make sure that 10 other people that you know vote. Every voice counts. And so we have a lot of goals, and we have a lot of different initiatives going on with Northeast Wisconsin all throughout the state. So I'm going to pass it on, but if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be around, and we will. It's imperative that we win, and so we have to make it too big to rig and get every vote out. So thank you.
And last but very not least, and then after this, we are going to do a question and answers. All week I've had a lot of questions, and if anybody would want to stick around to ask questions for some experts here, they'd be happy to answer that. So we have Laura Ackman, chapter chair for Winnebago County Moms for Liberty.
Hello, everyone. I am so excited to see all of you guys here. Scarlett knows because she's been doing the fight for 4 years. Sometimes we're alone when we're doing this, and sometimes we'll have 1 or 2 people at the school boards or fighting the fight with us. So we're excited to see that you are concerned about what's going on here. It's amazing because if you listen to the school board, they talk a lot about transparency, that they care about the kids and they're very transparent. But when you think of what's transpired over the last couple of weeks, for any parents that's out there, you got a survey asking you about the phone policy, and you filled it out, and they did all kinds of discussions around it because they were going to implement a new phone policy, which is important, and I actually applaud the fact that they did a survey and engaged parents. I just found out this week that you guys get a weekly letter from Peggy Larson. I didn't know that because it doesn't seem that we know what's going on. But did you get a survey? Did you get a questionnaire? Did you hear anything about Title IX? No. No. You didn't. Do you think Title IX and a 15-page rewrite is a little bit more, 1,500-page rewrite is a little bit more important than a change in your cell phone policy? I would think so. So the other concern I have is they're writing a policy on how they're going to administer this new rewrite, and none of them really know what's in there. So if you're going to write a policy on how you're going to investigate and punish, because that's really what this policy is about, how do you know what you're investigating and punishing? Because you haven't read the 1,500-page document, nor did you get like a nice summary or what are the key points in there. If you think about Title IX from 1972, it was 2 paragraphs, very clear and concise. They wanted to protect girls and women in sports and education. Very simple. Why do we need 1,500 pages? What's in there? And I'll be honest, I haven't read it yet, but I'm very curious because that's a lot of words, and we know how the government works. You know, when they pass bills and they put all the extra language, the 4,000 pages, and drop it the night before and wants Congress to pass it. So you should be a little suspect at this point. But a couple of things. The transparency issue is an issue. But when you really look at some of the things that are in Title IX, and we know this because Moms for Liberty is one of the participants in the lawsuit, that schools must, students in the schools who claim to suffer from gender dysphoria, you have to treat them as if they are that opposite sex. That a male student who identifies as a female must be allowed to access the other facilities. Teachers and students must refer to a gender dysphoric child by their preferred pronouns and alternative names. And if you don't, you will be under investigation. That's why they need all these additional coordinators and investigation people, because can you imagine if you misgender someone, you're going to be investigated. The other thing that in this new rewrite, they have a lot more flexibility to manage the overall process. That makes me nervous. I'd like to know what the rules are and know that every time they investigate, they follow the same rules. They don't have to know because they have flexibility. That means they can treat each case very differently. That also concerns me. That no gender person has to provide any documentation. That worries me. I can just decide today that I'm a boy. I can change that back the next day. That doesn't sound like you really have a serious situation in terms of how you feel about yourself if you can change from day to day. The other thing that you as parents really need to be nervous about, and someone brought it up early, that it is optional to get you involved should a situation arise. I'll tell you, if similar to Scarlett, I better be involved in that, right? Like if something's going down at the school with a child or a grandchild or whatever, every parent, you need to, you should be talking to your kids in case that's not happening. And that is optional. They do not have to include you. And the way their investigative procedures are written, you might not know till very far along in an investigation. One thing I want to bring up And I have to do a little bit more work on it, and Scarlett and I have talked about it. One thing that they did talk about is they will engage the school counselor with your child should your child ever bring up the fact that they think they might be the opposite sex. I will tell you, you do not want your child to be in a room with a student, with a counselor from your school with no supervision, or you're not in there. There is a way for you to opt out. It is an opt-out form that they cannot have your child talking to a counselor without your knowledge. Because we have friends and people we know who they were behind the scenes talking to their child about transitioning to the other sex, and the parent did not know a thing. So think about that. A couple of other things as, sorry. Sorry about that. Just to reiterate kind of the landscape of what's going on, I know there was a Supreme Court ruling last night. We don't know enough about it since it's hot off the press to really talk about that. But Moms for Liberty does have a lawsuit out there. And we have won an injunction, which if we have a child, any Moms for Liberty member who has a child in a school, the Department of Education and Department of Justice cannot enforce the new Title IX policy in those schools. All 3 of the Winneconne schools are covered. So my question is, they all knew that at the board meeting. Why did they pass it? They know they're in, that to some degree they're in violation of the injunction, but yet they stood tall and said, we're going forward with it anyway. Part of this is also because the attorney who was present significantly misrepresented data, and I've called them on it and they're doubling down. They said, if you as a school board member, you do not pass this law, and it's not a law, it's a regulation, let's be clear about that. If you do not pass it, most likely, so he uses wiggle room, your insurance company will not cover you as a board, and therefore you will be personally liable. Yes, you, board member, will be personally liable. That is not correct. That is not correct. The other thing, they intimated that you will lose funding, and they did this in Oshkosh as well. They talked about if you do not pass this, you will lose your federal funding, which then you get the parents up in arms that need the free lunches and a lot of the funding that goes for special needs. And so it's a scare tactic that they use all the time. On the schools that are protected, they cannot hold back your federal funding. So again, we know that Winneconne is covered, so why are they doing this? One other thing that I'll leave you with, because I could go on for hours, I really could, is Peggy also said several times, I don't know why everyone's getting so upset with this. It's our current policy as well. Wait for it. It is. And this goes to the transparency thing. Your current policy does refer to the transgender people. What it doesn't specifically say is that they can go into the bathrooms, but no policy does. So I think as parents, whoever's going to the school board tomorrow, you should ask where in any policy or in any document that you have, it says that you must allow a person to go into those bathrooms. I haven't found it, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I don't know where it is. So that's a crucial question that you should be asking. The attorney also sent me a rebuttal on the facts. You will hear that it is state law and federal law that you must comply with this. Well, if you go out and read the statute, and I've read it, and I've had another attorney read it for me and double check it for me, it refers to sexual orientation. That is the term that's been around for a long time. And what sexual orientation means, are you heterosexual, homosexual, or bisexual? It explains it in the policy what that means. So nothing to our knowledge, and Scarlett has confirmed this as well, nothing in the state or federal has changed to say gender. It is not covered. So when the attorney said to our board, you must pass this because of the state regulations and federal, that was misguiding our school board. So again, I want to just say thank you for coming out. I would ask anyone who here, if you want to know more about Moms for Liberty, we have a sign-up sheet. We have 130,000 members nationwide, and we are growing due to Title IX. I'd love to know what our updated stats are right now, but there are people like Scarlett throughout the state. We currently have 16 chapters, and we are growing strong. So thank you for all your support.
Thank you very much, Laura. Well, what do you think? Was that a good round of speakers or what, huh? Hopefully everybody learned something. Hopefully we're motivated now that you know that your voice can be heard. One thing I wanted to add to what Laura had mentioned, just so you guys are aware, no school in the entire history of the United States has ever lost federal funding, period. Okay?
Due to Title IX, no school
due to Title IX.
52 years of its inception has lost funding.
So it's a completely empty threat, unless you think that they're going to use Winneconne as the first example in the entire nation, which I have my doubts about that. And from what we do understand, some people did have access to the insurance policy, and nowhere in there does it state that they were going to take away the money for attorney representation if there was a lawsuit. So these are continuous untruths, lack of transparency, and it's too much. We got to stand together and make this stop. Now, what we're going to do, for those of you that want to stick around, by the way, there's food. The Firehouse Subs provided food. They're walking around with a box. Feel free to get something to eat. We know you've been here for a while. Valley Popcorn with the popcorn, and there's drinks, different juices and water, of course. But now what we're going to do, for those of you that still may have questions, concerns, or thoughts, Adam's going to come around with the microphone, and Scarlett is going to answer any question that any of you have.
To the best of my ability.
All right, I'm going to send Heidi with the microphone.
I'm cuter and faster.
Real quick, I'm going to read from the Heritage Foundation, Sarah Marshall Perry, about, if you've heard about the recent Supreme Court case. She's an expert and she worked with the Trump administration. Basically, the Biden administration requested that because there are 26 states have been successful in blocking the implementation of Title IX, the rewrite, as has the Moms for Liberty and the Young America's Foundation. Nationally, because we've been successful with those injunctions, the Biden administration attempted to get the Supreme Court to basically come out, they're on vacation right now, to basically come in and hold an emergency session and order that all states had to comply. All states had to comply with the implementation, that it was federal law. So when the Supreme Court, that was a 9-0 vote to not do that. They said, we're not coming out, we're not going to say that this is, that all these injunctions are illegal. They're basically, so that was a 9-0 decision. It's just justices, that was a win. And on a 5-4 decision, they got more specific. So basically, I'm going to read directly from a lawyer. The Biden administration's request was denied to redefine sex to mean gender identity, and that sex discrimination included gender identity. Denied that this would go into in effect right now. And basically said that the court cases need to take, go through the whole process. The good news is that while this is a procedural victory, it could be predictive of ultimate success because the DOE had to show a likelihood of success on the merits of the case, and they did not meet that burden. By a 9-0 decision, they did not meet the burden, meaning the justices saw that there are a lot of flaws in this, and it's very likely unconstitutional and won't withstand constitutional muster, which is why this should not be passed by local school boards. It just shouldn't. So you ask, why are they doing it? Well, because let's say they pass it, and let's say it's overturned, but it's policy now, right? It's still local policy. They know that it's difficult to unwind something. It's very difficult to roll something back. I think it's not as difficult if you do it fast, which is I hope that you can do that. But they'd rather get it in place and kind of have you guys be forced to live under it, hoping that it will never be replaced, rather than just wait. They know that if you pause, this very likely will have no success of passing.
Is there anyone who would like to ask Scarlett a question? Because now's your chance. People still seem to have questions.
And you can ask me a question at the table too if y'all want to. Sure.
Okay, we've got it. Hold on, Adam, we got a question.
Hello, Scarlett. Thank you for
Hi.
coming out
Hey.
to meet us today. I hope we got it. I think we got a question here. Not knowing this before, we had a lot of speakers today, so please forgive me. Reiterate everything that had to do with what the true law and what preserves or takes away the federal fund is.
What was that again? I didn't hear the whole question.
I'm sorry.
It's about federal funding. No, this is the number one thing that I can assure you, that the Moms for Liberty injunction, which is a 10th Circuit federal court decision, it was decided on July 2nd and then reaffirmed on July 19th. If there is a Moms for Liberty member who has a child in a public school in the United States, no matter what state, that school does not have to implement the Title IX rewrite, because there is no force, there's no teeth to it. The federal government was the injunction forbids them from withholding federal funds. So there's no teeth. The federal government cannot enforce this. And we submit a list every 2 weeks or so of schools that have been added. So as we have more members, we add more schools. Wisconsin led the country. We have 436 schools now. I'm sure there are more because we are about to resubmit another list. If your school isn't on the list, you just need to contact me or Laura, and we can help figure it out. We can write a letter verifying that your school is on the list. So when your school district said, well, this is federal law, we will lose funding, that is not true. It is not true. And that's why so many districts haven't implemented it, because they know that. They know it, that the federal government is not going to withhold special ed funding. The federal government is not going to withhold lunch money. They've never done it before, and they're not going to do it now where there's all this litigation. And particularly if you've got a child of a member of Moms for Liberty in your school, they cannot do it. We submit this list to the Department of Education. And I don't know if you all are aware, but all the UW systems, every University of Wisconsin School District has suspended the implementation of Title IX. They've all. So why is your district, when every university has said due to the litigation, and they cited our case, because of that litigation, because of the success of that case, we are pausing and we are suspending the implementation of Title IX because there's no reason to do this when there's just too much confusion, and we have to see what the Supreme Court is going to say. So if the UW system is going to suspend, why are so many local school districts going forward? And I just today watched a 2018 interview with Molly Herman, who is basically second in charge at Wisconsin DPI, an interview with G-Safe, whose name's Brian J. They both stated, they said there exists no state statute in Wisconsin. There is no state law that says that a school has to protect or redefine sex to include gender identity. They stated that outright. The only thing they cited was Whitaker, and they admitted how weak Whitaker was. The 2017 Whitaker 7th Court decision. It applied to a high school student, and it was not clear, and I can show you some information about that. It's kind of a bigger thing, but there is nothing in Whitaker that talks about fundamentally changing the definition of sex to include gender identity. It doesn't talk about elementary schools or middle schools. It was simply allowing a female student who identified as trans, as a male, who had been medicalized and had, she also had she had a double mastectomy, all of that stuff. They let her into the bathroom because there was no other options in this school. It was in Kenosha. There were no options. So where there are gender neutral options, the court said if there were gender neutral options, then yeah, that would be okay. So there's a lot of confusion in the courts right now. So Whitaker is not something to stand on, and when they use it, they're misusing it. It's not definitive at all. It's not a reason to pass this overwhelming, rampant change. And then there was also a use of statute 118.13. I read that statute. There's absolutely no mention of gender identity in it, nor in the administrative code that was cited by the lawyer. There was no mention of gender identity, bathrooms. I don't know where that came from, and I don't see how it was relevant, but it repeatedly said this is federal law, and it's not. This is state law. It's not. It is. In fact, I think that they are more likely to be sued by someone from the majority, from one of you, because your child has been discriminated against, than they would be by the very few people that this would affect. Remember, when they provided a right to someone that has gender confusion, they sacrificed the rights of all the other kids and all the other parents. So they basically said, someone has more rights. And that is unconstitutional. There isn't super duper rights. Well, you have rights, but you have super duper rights. You know, and Title IX is a really faulty vessel because it is in 1972, it was so obviously about women's sports. It was male, female. When you redefine sex, you don't even need, Title IX doesn't even exist anymore because it just means anybody. You know, it doesn't make any sense, but a lot of these things don't.
All right, so we have a gentleman here. Question? Okay, so here, I'll
Please stay connected on the Facebook page. Please come to the school board meeting tomorrow, right?
Yes, tomorrow.
I will be watching remotely and recording it. And if you give a really good speech, I'm going to put it on my Twitter, and you can go viral. So, it has happened. Okay, the last few speeches, I send them off to. I have a lot of contacts nationally. They've been going viral. So, come on, give a kick-ass speech, and it can go viral, and that's important. That kind of thing is important, okay, because this is the world we live in, and if you can get attention nationally, then you can apply more pressure to your school district, and that's what you're going to have to try and do right now. Really exert the pressure, and then get ready for your election in April, and make people aware of what's happening. This is not a popular issue. Democrat, Republican, this is not popular. This is not popular. And so you need to raise awareness, stay together. If you need help with your school board speech, if you're nervous, right here, Adam, Laura, I'll help. We can help you give talking points. Just really try to mention some of the points that we have, and come to the table, and we'll give you, I have printed some things out, or we'll send you to the momsforliberty.org page. We've got some great talking points. You want to go there, and you want to show that, hey, I know the law, I know my rights, and really make a good case for yourself and for your community. And we can help you do that. the more organized you are, the better. And I have a guess they're going to have a sizable crowd on Team Crazy. So Team Sanity should show up. They can. I recalled 4 school board members in my district, but it's hard work. And is she up for election?
Okay. So recall was floated around. It's a lot of work. I would need a lot of people to get a lot of signatures. So if it's something that someone's interested in, already talked about it. I would have had it in motion already, though, if I felt they had the help to do it, because we could have got a lot of signatures today. So if it's something you're interested in, come talk to me. But I haven't gone forward with it because it is a lot of work. And plus, the only person that would make sense to be recalled right now is Jackie Stelzner. She's pretty popular in the community, so it is a good way to go, but it's a lot of work. She, as she said, recalled 4 board members. No work and money.
Should I use this? I'll use this one. Maybe they can't be close together. Yeah. Recall's hard work. You can do it. I can help. My friend Amber and I. So if you're interested in that, I can definitely help you. But you have to collect a lot of signatures, and then you have to have a candidate to run against, and you'll have a special election. You have 60 days, and you have to collect 25%. The number of signatures is equivalent to 25% of the total number of votes in the last presidential election. So for me, I had to collect 4,200 signatures for every school board member that we were recalling. You had 60 days to do that. They challenged at every point. We ended up having to hire a lawyer to help us. But you can be listen, this issue, this is a slam dunk issue in my opinion. But you'd have to be really smart about that. I'm hoping that you could maybe have the board change their mind. If not, you've got election in April. I would focus on winning that election, and this issue should be the issue that you're running on. And also start doing open records requests, because if they are going forward with this, they have to hire, they're going to have to do training, DEI training. You want to know what's going on. You want to know how much money is being spent. How much is this going to cost us? It's about $5,000 for every session. That's just that, and that doesn't include, in my district, we have had training sessions for things like this that cost $42,000 for 3 hours. So you need to open records request. You need to find out what's happening now, what policies, and they are totally lying when they say that this does not apply to athletics. It's not true. It applies to athletics. They changed the definition of sex to gender. That means there is no girls' sports anymore. There is, whatever you identify as sports, cat sports. And you think I'm joking. Gigi Stahl and Stevens Point, they called it personas, that you had to accommodate kids that walked around with tails and ears and meowed. That was a gender identity, and I was in the training for that, or I saw the training for that. So it's true, it descends into chaos and madness. So you're going to need to do a lot of that, but if you can do it. This was a great crowd today, and you just stay fired up. And take this into the election, because if Trump wins, day one, he's going to put executive orders, all this nonsense. He's going to say, done. He's going to everything that Biden has done, he will use an executive order to undo. However, what he cannot undo is policy 2264. He can't undo that. That's something you're going to have to fight for again. You're going to have to basically say, you're going to have to go back to your board, and you're going to have to, and they're going to come up with some excuse, some obscure statute no one ever heard of, and tell you that you have to do this. They don't mind lying to you, because they think that you're a bunch of, they think so little of you. They think you're abusers. They think you're harming the children. They think that they're saviors, and they're wrong. Yeah.
I just have to say one thing about, so on Wednesday we had an email come out from Peggy Larson, and it asked our district administrator, and it said the exact opposite of what she said at the school board. This is a common theme. She does it all the time. So there's one way we're going to put something together that's going to show that. We're going to show the video of her saying one thing, and then sending out an email to the district on Wednesday saying the opposite. And then it was also in the Winneconne News on Wednesday, so that's the problem that we're up against. She tries to manipulate the public opinion, and she lies. That happens all the time. There's plenty of evidence of that. So.
We have a question over here.
Hey, Scarlett, I just wanted to ask you, there's been a lot of questions. Can you clarify, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you clarify Title IX, this also applies to dorming at colleges and hotel rooms if you were going on like school trips? Like my best friend's 8th grade son is going to Washington, D.C. with Winneconne School District this coming year. Could he possibly have a opposite sex as a roommate in his hotel room?
It doesn't apply to dorming because UW's system suspended the implementation of Title IX, and most colleges have suspended the implementation. It does apply though to the 8th grade. If you said you had a son,
It's my best friend's son.
your best friend's son. So your best friend's son could definitely be in a position where there is a male that now identifies as a female in his room. There are specific instances of this all across the country, and Alliance Defending Freedom is actually suing a school district right now because they not only allowed a male into a female room for a school trip, they didn't tell the parents. So the parents had no idea. And then when the girl told her parents, they threatened the child with violating Title IX, and the kids were afraid to say anything because if they had all, said that they didn't want to be in the room, that would be a act of sex discrimination. So yeah, it does affect. It affects field trips. It affects everything that they do in schools. Absolutely everything. Sure.
What are your thoughts on the school board? They also, at the same time that they passed the Title IX, they also kind of slid under the radar a full all-day device ban.
Yeah, because they don't want your kids recording what's happening.
Thank you.
This is about they don't want your kids slipping out their phone recording all the crazy stuff that's going to be going on in those classrooms. That's
So
what it is.
I didn't know if everybody heard what Katie's question was. So also under this, our school board has now passed that no student is allowed to have their cell phone or any recording device. Got smartwatches. You can now no longer have those in your locker room or bathroom space. Well, it was of course presented as though that's a good thing, but it's really not, because in their favor, if some incident does take place, you now have no evidence of it. It's going to be they said, she said, and your child will have no proof at all whatsoever that an opposite sex person came into their locker room or came into their bathroom. So I could see not having your phone with you when you're in a classroom, but when you want to go to a private space, you absolutely should be allowed to have your phone or your tablet or your watch on hand so that if something happens, it's there to record that information. And our school district just said, no, that's not going to happen anymore.
Yeah, traditionally I would say I don't want these in the classroom, but they're basically trying to end all the revelations from Libs of TikTok. But you know what you can do? You can install in their Chromebook, install a recording device. There's a lot of things you can do with their Chromebook so that they can record things.
I was just going to let you know, if you guys do like my Unmask the Children shirt, I'm going to pass some out to you. You can have them. Hopefully they don't come in handy with the next episode, but they just might. Anybody else with questions, please feel free.
Anyone with questions? Anyone want to speak? Including you guys over there. We're telling you, you're more than welcome. This is about all children, not just one or the other. So you're welcome to come and speak.
All right, well, thanks everyone for coming. I'm going to let Adam close it up. Yeah, that's it. All right, if you want anything, I'm going to be at the table for a little while.
And just know if you want to go home too with some popcorn or some bottles of water, a couple of chips, we've got them right here. Oh, you want to? Okay, well, we have someone that would like to say something.
No, it's fine.
Transgender people have existed throughout every history. They are an inherent part of humanity. From the androgynous breed to the ancient Sumerian goddess Nara to the Mahu of Hawaii, who were sacred gods of their ancient
What's up? How you doing, buddy? Thank you. And we are done with the live stream.